Hi, welcome to Rules Challenge. My name's Carter Maxwell, and in this episode we're going to be looking at the game Arcs from Leader Games. Now, my introduction to the game was pretty unusual. I actually got to play at the Leader Games office a few times. It's kind of neat with a bunch of tables going of Arcs at the same time and a lot of people learning the game together. And it's definitely the first time I'd ever played a game where we were able to actually call the designer of the game over to the table to ask some questions. I should mention that I'm not going to be using any of the leader and lore cards in these examples. I just figured it'd be too complicated to have a bunch of passive abilities affecting play where I'd always have to be commenting on whether or not there could be something off screen that's affecting the rules. So you don't have to worry about that. There are plenty of guild cards in play, but if they're affecting any of these examples, I'll talk about the card and show it on screen. If you're new to the show, this is basically just a test of your understanding of the rules, but instead of just asking you questions from the rulebook, you'll actually see me playing like it's a real game, making regular turns, but at the end of each turn, I'll just stop and ask legal or illegal, and it's your job to guess if what you saw during that turn was done correctly. Okay, with that, I think we're ready to start the challenge. As usual with my videos, we're picking up the action with the game already well underway, and we're into the third chapter, and we've played one full round already. For this round, White is holding the initiative marker, so we'll start things off with her. She's going to play the Construction 4 card, and she wants to declare an ambition, so we'll mark it right away with this Ambition Declared marker. That Construction 4 card allows her to declare the Warlord ambition, which happens to have the 6 VP marker on it already, so she'll slide the 5 VP marker down there as well. Her card gives her 3 build or repair pips to spend. She'll spend the first pip to build a fresh ship at this starport. Then she'll spend the second pip to repair this ship here. Then she'll spend the third pip to build a fresh ship at this starport. And that completes her turn. There were a couple things on that turn that people commonly question. One is declaring the Warlord ambition here, even though it had already been declared earlier in this chapter. But that's legal. You can declare the same ambition twice or even a third time. And they'll both score, so if somebody happens to win the Warlord ambition by themselves, they would get the full 11 points from these two combined. Keep in mind, though, if a player has unlocked the scoring bonuses for unoccupied cities, so say if White had unlocked the +2 bonus for when she wins an ambition, you only would gain that bonus once. So if White wins Warlord, she would get, and has the +2 bonus, she would get 6 +2 +5. She wouldn't get the +2 a second time for scoring this one. Another thing people might question is if you can build in a system you don't control. And let's talk about control for a second. So from an individual player's perspective, there's 3 potential control statuses. So like looking at White in this system, either White can control it, or it could be controlled by no one because it's tied, or a rival could control it. Or as we saw at the start of this turn, White had a damaged ship there, so Red controlled it because Red had a fresh ship. To build a ship in a system, you only need to have a starport present. You do not have to have control of that system. On this turn, White decided to spend her second pip to repair this ship, and then her third pip to bring in or to build a new ship. So even though she hadn't controlled it at that time, she was able to build this new ship here. Remember, though, that if you build in a system that your rival controls, that new ship or new building will come in damaged. And that's why White decided to repair this ship first, because if she had just built here right away, this ship would have had to come in damaged. The next player up will be Yellow, and he's going to play the Construction 5 card. And that'll give him 2 pips to work with. For the Prelude phase, he wants to play this Prison Warden's Guild card. And he's going to use the bottom effect on the card. That says, Prelude. You may discard this to place 3 ships in a system you control. So he'll discard the card, and he'll take 3 of his ships. He'll choose the psionic system that's empty except for his starport, and he'll put all 3 ships there. Now he's going to use the pips on his card, and he'll just spend both of those to build 2 more ships in that system. And that completes his turn. Yellow made a couple mistakes that turn, so hopefully you caught both of them. One was in building more than 1 ship in a single starport in a single turn. That's illegal. If he'd had a second starport in this system, that would have been fine. But with just the 1 starport, he was only able to build 1 new ship there this turn. Just to clarify, I could see somebody saying, well, he shouldn't have been able to build either one of those because he had already built 3 there. But remember that placing these 3 here was not a build action. It was a placement allowed by a card play. Yellow's other mistake was where he chose to place those 3 ships when he played the Prison Warden's card. The card specifies that the ships must be built in a system you control. But remember at the start of the turn, when he played that card, this system was empty except for that starport. Buildings don't give you control. Control is determined strictly by fresh ships in a system. Since nobody had any fresh ships here, that system was uncontrolled and it was not eligible for Yellow to place those ships there. Now Blue's up, and she's also going to surpass using the 3 construction card. And that will give her 3 pips to work with. She has a couple things she wants to do in her Prelude phase. First off, she's going to spend this fuel token so she can make a move. For the move, she's going to catapult all 7 of these ships from this weapon system through this gate and to this material system. So she'll move them into the gate. She'll drop off one of her fresh ships and continue on into this system. She's also going to spend this weapon resource so she can take some battle actions during her turn. She's done doing stuff in Prelude, so Blue will return those spent resources to supply. Now to take her actions, she's going to spend her first pip to battle Yellow in this system here. And Blue will be attacking with 6 ships total. She'll collect her dice, and she's going to play it safe and just make it 6 of the blue skirmish dice. She got a total of 4 hits. She'll apply those 4 hits to Yellow, tipping 4 of them on their side. For her second pip, she'll do the same thing, battling Yellow here. She'll roll 6 blue dice again. And this time she got 2 hits. And she'll apply those hits to Yellow, tipping 2 more ships on their sides. For her third pip, she's going to battle Yellow yet again here. She wants to roll as much damage as possible, so this time she's going to collect 6 red dice instead of blue. First, she'll need to resolve these 2 flames she rolled. She'll apply both damage to one of her fresh ships, and she'll place that in Yellow's trophies box. Now she needs to resolve this intercept. Yellow doesn't have any fresh ships, so Blue won't take any damage from the intercept. And now she needs to resolve the total of 5 hits of damage she did to Yellow. Applying those 5 hits, Blue will remove 5 Yellow damaged ships from the board. And she'll place those in her own trophies box. This turn was legal, but there are a few things worth talking about. One is a very basic thing that's commonly misunderstood by new players. When you aren't playing the lead card, you always have to choose to surpass, copy, or pivot. Here, Blue chose to surpass, but notice that she played a lower numbered card than Yellow did right before her. And that's okay. To surpass, you don't have to exceed the value of every card played before you. The requirements only relate to the lead card. You have to match its suit, and you have to exceed its number, which in this case was 0, so that was easy to do. Blue didn't have to worry about what yellow played, so that 5 did not block her from playing that 3. I should also highlight Blue's catapult move, where she dropped off a ship in the gate and then continued on to a planet system. And that's legal. Just remember that you can only drop off. You couldn't pick up a ship along the way. I also want to point out Blue's use of that weapon resource. You notice that she used it to battle 3 times on that turn. People sometimes assume it only allows you to use one of your pips for a battle. But once you spend that resource, you can use as many pips that turn as you want to battle. And then the last thing I want to mention is, people are sometimes unsure when a battle's being resolved, who applies the hits. Does the defender get to apply the hits that they're taking on their ships? No, whoever has initiated the battle and is the attacker, they're resolving all the hits. They're making all the decisions on how those are applied. All right, now it's Red's turn, and he's going to pivot and play the Mobilization 2 card. And that will give him 1 pip to spend on either a move or an influence. While he's still in Prelude, he's going to spend this relic resource to secure this Construction Union card. He'll return the agents to his personal supply and then add the card to his play area. And then he'll refill the court. While he's still in the Prelude phase, he wants to use the ability on that Construction Union card he just acquired. That card says Prelude. You may place this card next to a face-up played construction card. When the round ends, draw that card into your hand and discard this card. He'll place it next to this Construction 5 card. He's done with Prelude actions, so Red will return that relic resource to supply. Alright, he still needs to use that pip from the card he played, and it can be either a move or an influence. He'll use it as an influence and place an agent next to Loyal Keepers. Red's mistake was in using that Construction Union card during Prelude, even though he had gained it during this same Prelude phase. He would have needed to have that Construction Union card in play at the start of his Prelude phase to be allowed to use that ability. I should note that the way Red handled refilling the court was done correctly. People sometimes assume that you shouldn't refill it till the end of your turn, but refilling is part of the secure action. So it was correct that Red, after using that relic to secure a card, immediately refilled the court. But we've reached the end of the round, so we'll give the initiative marker to Yellow for having played that Construction 5 card. And then we'll discard this Construction Union card and give the 5 card to Red. We'll return the Ambition Declared marker to its spot and discard these remaining 3 cards. Starting off the next round, we see Yellow has the initiative marker, so he'll go first. He'll play the Aggression 2 card, and that will give him 3 pips to battle, move, or secure. He's not going to declare an ambition. He does want to do a Prelude action. He'll spend this material resource, and he'll use that resource to repair this ship here. He's done taking Prelude actions, so Yellow will return that materials resource to supply. Now he'll spend his first pip to do a catapult move from this system with a damaged starport. He'll move these 3 ships through this gate that has 1 fresh blue and 1 fresh white ship, over to this gate where there's 1 fresh blue ship, and stop. He'll spend his second pip to move those 3 ships into this planet system. He'll spend his last pip to battle in this system with blue as the defender. And he has 3 ships, so he can collect 3 dice. He'll go with 3 raid dice and he'll roll them. He rolled 2 flames, so first we'll resolve those. The flames are hits on his own ship, so he'll take 2 damage by tipping 2 ships over. And he rolled 2 damage to buildings. He'll apply the 2 building hits by first damaging and then removing this starport. And he'll put that in his trophies box. And he rolled 2 keys. Now he'll use those keys to raid Blue, who doesn't have any resources right now but does have some guild cards. And he'll spend his 2 keys to take this Silver Tongues guild card that has 2 keys on it. He'll put the card into his play area, and that ends his turn. One question that could come up from this turn is whether or not it was okay that Yellow had done a catapult from a damaged starport. And that's fine. Damage to a starport or a city doesn't affect their capabilities at all. It just means that they're one step closer to being destroyed. I also want to point out that it was legal that Yellow did that catapult move through this gate where there was a fresh blue and white ship. You're not considering whether someone has more ships there than Yellow. You're simply looking at that system by itself, whether any faction controls it. Because these two are tied, no one controls it, and Yellow is able to pass through with that catapult move. Now Blue's up, and she's going to pivot with this Administration 4 card. And that will give her 1 pip to use on tax, repair, or influence. She's going to use it to tax her city in this weapon system. And so she'll gain a weapon resource and place it on her 3 key slot here. This was a really simple turn, but one question it might raise is if you can tax a city in a system that you don't control. The answer is it depends. If it's a rival city, then you can only tax it if you control the system. But if it's your own city, like in this case, you can always tax it, even if the system is uncontrolled or a rival controls it, like we had here. Now it's Red's turn, and he's going to surpass using the Aggression 7 card. And being a 7, that seizes the initiative. So he'll take the initiative marker from Yellow and lay it down in his own play area. Now he wants to declare an ambition. So he'll go ahead and mark his card with the ambition declared marker. And that card has a question mark on it. 3-point marker down there. Now he has 1 pip to spend on either battle, move, or secure. And he'll use it to secure this Loyal Keeper's card where he has 1 agent. He'll return the agent to his supply, put the card in his play area, refill the display, and that ends his turn. I've seen this mistake made a couple of times by new players. Sometimes they think that if they've seized the initiative, they now have the right to declare an ambition. But the only player who can declare an ambition is the one who plays that lead card. Not to say that there aren't some cards in the game that would allow you to declare an ambition, but under normal circumstances, only the player who plays the lead card can declare an ambition. Now White is up, and she's going to surpass with Aggression 4. Before taking any actions, she's going to spend a psionic resource so she can take an action from the lead card, which would be either a battle, move, or secure action. She's going to use it to move these 5 ships from this gate to this gate. She's done taking Prelude actions, so White will return that psionic resource to supply. Now she has 2 pips to spend from her aggression card. She's going to use the first one to move these ships into this material system. And she'll spend the second pip to battle with Blue as the defender. So she can collect 5 dice. She'll make all 5 of them assault dice. All right, that looks like a pretty weak roll for White. First we'll resolve that flame. So White will apply 1 damage to her ships. Then we need to resolve these 2 intercepts. Blue has 2 fresh ships defending, so White will take a total of 2 damage from those intercepts. And then we'll resolve these 3 hits. White will apply all 3 of those hits to Blue's 3 damaged ships and remove them from the board. and put them in her trophies box. The thing I want to focus on from this turn is those 2 intercept results from the battle dice. First off, remember that only fresh ships can cause intercept hits, so you can ignore any defender ships that are damaged. Also, you never resolve more than 1 intercept result per battle. Think of it thematically as the defenders catching the attackers by surprise. They can only catch them by surprise once. So that is why white only took 2 hits from these intercept results, because basically white resolved 1 and then just ignored that other intercept result. That completes the round. Red had seized the initiative marker, so we'll stand that up. We'll return the ambition declared marker and then discard all these used cards. Starting the next round, red has the initiative marker, so we'll start things off with him. He'll play the Mobilization 3 card, which will give him 3 pips to move or influence. He does want to take a Prelude action, and he'll use this Elder Broker card. That card says, Prelude. You may discard this to gain 1 material, 1 fuel, and 1 weapon. So he'll discard that card. Then he'll gain the resources. He can arrange these however he wants, but he doesn't think he's going to spend the materials, so he'll put that in the 3 key spot. Continuing with the Prelude phase, he's going to spend this weapon resource so he can do some battles, and he'll also spend this fuel token now to make a move. And for the move, he's going to take all 7 of his ships in this system and move them across the border into this next planetary system, where it's getting kind of crowded. He's done taking Prelude actions, so red will return that spent fuel and weapons resource to supply. Now red's going to start spending his pips, and since he used that weapon resource, he's going to battle. In fact, he'll spend all his pips on battling. First, he'll name white as the defender in this system. So he's attacking with 7 ships, so he gets to collect 7 dice. He wants to use all skirmish dice. There's just 6 of them, so he'll roll the first 6. He got 2 hits with that roll. And then they get for the 7th die. And he gets 1 more for a total of 3 hits. He'll apply those hits to white, who was defending. So that'll be 1, 2, and then for the 3rd, he'll remove a ship. And he'll place that in his trophies box. He'll spend his 2nd pip to attack white again. This time he's collected 5 blue and 2 red. First he has to apply the 1 flame. He'll take 1 damage to his own ships. And then now he can apply the 5 hits. He actually got more hits there than he can even use, so he'll apply 4 of those 5 to remove all these white damaged ships. And he'll put them in his trophies box. He'll use his last pip to battle yellow here, who has a starport and a fresh ship. He'll collect 5 raid dice and 2 assault dice and roll those. Well, that was a pretty bad roll in terms of keys. Let's apply these 3 flame results first. Red will damage 3 more of his ships. 2, 3. Then we have 3 intercept results. We can ignore 2 and just have to resolve 1 of them. For this damage, he'll go ahead and apply it to one of his already damaged ships. And he'll put that in yellow's trophy box. Then we'll apply the 2 regular hits. He'll apply those 2 hits to yellow's ship to remove it. He'll put that in his trophies box. Then we'll apply the 2 building hits. And the 2 building hits will remove the starport. And that'll go in his trophies box. And then we'll resolve the raid with just 2 keys here. Unfortunately for red, yellow is basically the worst player to raid because he has the Sworn Guardians card. It says, rivals cannot steal your resources and other guild cards. In battle, they can steal this first and then spend keys. And then it says, if this card is stolen, bury it. So red will spend 1 key to steal this card, and he'll put the card to the bottom of the court deck as it instructs. Now red just has 1 key left, and the only thing that yellow has available is this 2 key guild card, so red's done with raiding. That was a long, complex turn, and red did just one thing wrong, so don't feel bad if you missed it. Red's mistake was that in the first of those 3 battle actions, recall that he had 7 ships in the system, so he could use 7 dice. When you're collecting your battle dice, you have to do it all at the same time. So red wasn't allowed to say, well, I'm going to collect 6 blue dice, roll them, then reuse one of those as my 7th. He would have to either just say, I'm going to use 6 blue dice, or if he wants to use a 7th die, it would have to come from the assault or raid dice. I also want to point out a couple things that might have looked illegal but were okay. One is that a red had raided a starport. Sometimes people are under the impression that only cities can be raided, but that's not right. Either type of building can be raided. Another thing is that red had raided a card from yellow, but people often think, well, wait a second, there needs to be a building present to do a raid, and that building was destroyed. But the way things transpired here was fine. The defender must have a building present for you to collect raid dice, but the building doesn't have to survive the battle for you to be able to spend the keys you roll to raid the resources and cards. Now white is up, and she's going to surpass with mobilization 4. That'll give her 3 pips for move or influence. She'll use the first 2 pips to influence, placing 2 agents on the mining interest guild card. And she'll use her last pip on a move action. She'll move her ship from this gate to this one here. That turn was pretty simple, but I do want to highlight how white had placed more than 1 agent on the same guild card in the same turn. Sometimes people assume you can't do that, but that's fine. White could have used all 3 of her actions to place 3 agents here if she'd wanted to. Now yellow's up, and he's going to pivot with aggression 5. That will give him just 1 pip to spend, and he'll use it to battle. He'll battle in this system with blue as the defender. Blue doesn't have any ships, just has this fresh city. And yellow has 3 ships, so he can collect up to 3 dice. He'll make them all assault dice. Alright, yellow has 1 flame he has to resolve. So he'll tip over his last fresh ship here. Then he needs to resolve this intercept. The intercept won't have any effect because blue doesn't have any fresh ships in the system. And then finally he can apply these 2 hits to blue. Blue doesn't have any ships to absorb those hits, so they'll both be applied to the city, which will destroy it. We'll put that in yellow's trophies box. Now we need to resolve outrage, and that was in a weapons system. Yellow doesn't happen to have any weapons resources or cards that he has to lose, but he will mark the weapons resource on his player board. Now he'll look to see if he can ransack the court, and blue does have a couple agents here on this Loyal Empaths card. So he'll remove all those agents, take the card. He'll put all those agents into his trophies box, and he'll put that card into his play area. He'll refill the display, and that ends his turn. Yellow did everything right that turn, but there was one thing that I tend to forget a lot, and that is when he ransacked and got those rival agents, he put them into his trophies box, and that's correct. I tend to just always automatically put them in the captives box, but on a ransack, they do go into the trophies box instead. Now blue's up, and she's going to copy and seize the initiative. So she'll have 1 pip to either move or influence. First, she'll take the initiative marker and lay it down in her play area. And she'll spend her 1 pip on a move, moving these 2 blue ships into this planet system. And that ends her turn. That was a really basic turn, but there is one thing I want to point out. Just remember that the initiative can only be seized once per round. So let's say earlier white had played a 7 instead of that 4 and seized the initiative herself. Then blue playing this extra card wouldn't have done her any good, because you can't seize the initiative in the same round that someone has already seized it. Okay, I think we'll wrap things up there. If you have any questions or think I got anything wrong, don't hesitate to leave a comment. Otherwise, I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks.